I want to get it right, the scientific and spiritual meaning of 2012. I like that topic.
Is there something?
Oh, sorry about that. Must be this. I moved it closer to you.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
We'll get it. You don't get it closer. You have to stand here.
Okay, we're good now. Thanks. So I thought I'd start off with sort of a meditation, but not a silent, not a thoughtless meditation, just kind of looking at this galaxy. Oh, by the way, I'm both people here. David Mitchell, I work as an atmospheric scientist, and I also work as president of Divine Mission, which is it's an organization that supports seekers on their spiritual path. So we help people attain their spiritual goal, whether it's self-realization or further on. So that's up at Silver City, where we have our headquarters. So anyway, this talk is going to be an attempt to go into the spiritual meaning and the scientific meaning of 2012, and Gary's already touched on part of it. But this galaxy here is kind of, in a nutshell, what I'd like to talk about. What we see here is light, and this light is made up of so many billions of stars, all emanating light. But that's light that's available to our human eye, but there's also subtle energy or subtle matter being emanated. Every galaxy, scientists now know, has a central black hole. There's a black hole at the center of every galaxy in the universe, and that emits tremendous amounts of energy. And you can see that in the physical light, but there's also a spiritual energy being emanated as well. And that light is actually coming from a more subtle universe. I'll explain more about this. But there's a sevenfold universe. There's 7 different universes. And the one that we're in right now is the gross universe. It's, very tangible matter. But there's more subtle levels of matter and energy. And there's universes that are made of those more subtle levels. And at the very core is the most subtle universe, where you could say that's the creator force, the God force, the absolute power source. And that emanates through this central sun of the galaxy, or you could call it the black hole. And that goes out to all the stars. And every star is receiving that spiritual light. And every star is communicating with every other star. And every star is actually a spiritual being, or an aggregation of spiritual beings. And they're all in resonance with each other. And there's a cosmic consciousness going on in that entire galaxy. So every light, every star, every planet, and all the beings on the planets that are awakened are all in communication or resonance with each other. So our galaxies are really living beings, you could say. So a lot of this talk comes from this book here. What I was describing is described in this book, Pillar of Celestial Fire. And I'm also going to talk about some of the Mayan calendar wisdom, and my spiritual teacher, Swami Sri Atmananda, what he has taught, some small things that he has taught over the years about this event, 2012. This is a diagram that describes how the Earth is wobbling on its axis, so that the seasons are determined by the tilt of the Earth. So if the sun is out there, right now the tilt is like this. We're tilted away from the sun, and that makes it winter. And then in the summertime it tilts the other direction. So at a given time of year, like if we take this planet 13,000 years into the future, our winter will then be a summer, the tilt will be opposite. And then it'll eventually rotate around and tilt back again. So it's wobbling on its axis, in other words. At a given fixed point in time, the precession of the orbit of the axis is going like this. So what I should say is at an equinox, like the winter equinox right now, where the days are the shortest, night is longest, we're tilted like this. And in 13,000 years, the precession of the axis will go out like this, so it'll be tilted. So it's summer, the summer solstice, at the same exact time of year. And then it'll again go back in 13,000 years to its original plane. So that's what this is showing here. And that's basically like a cosmic clock, because the planets are, the star field beyond the Earth, all the stars are having their own attributes. They have certain correspondences of consciousness or divine consciousness. And we call that the zodiac. So this axis of the Earth here is moving through the zodiac. And it traces out like a clock. Oops. These are the signs of the zodiac. So that in Western astrology we call these signs astrological signs, and in the Vedic system, Jyotish, Vedic astrology, it's called rashis. And rashis are literally meaning clusters of rays or clumps of rays. These rays are from the stars, the star field in the background. So at any astrological age, there'll be a unique star field corresponding to that sign. So each sign has its own cluster of celestial fire, rays of cosmic influence that are coming to the Earth. And we're generally not aware of this, but they're affecting us constantly, and that's why there's a science of astrology. So the science of astrology is really the science of these rays or beams of consciousness coming from different stars into our Earth plane. And we're all divine beings originally, so we're all having that link with that divine energy that's coming into our planet. So we're right here now. This is the Piscean age right here, and this is the Aquarian age here. So that's a special event. This is showing what it says here, the upward spiral of human evolution. So this is the precession of the Earth on its axis shown as a sine wave. So that precession of the axis that's doing this, it's just shown graphically here as a sine wave. And this is the Aquarian age that we're coming into. And we can say below this dashed line is where the Earth is not, it's receiving less light. It's like a lack of cosmic or divine radiation, subtle energy. And as we come into this period here, this is a cosmic day. So it's cosmic daytime here. And then it goes into a declining period here, a nighttime. So the important thing is that we are here. Right now on 21st December 2012, this is a really auspicious day as described in the Mayan calendar, where we're entering this new phase. So we could say we're entering the morning here. And that goes on for 13,000 years, and then another declining period, but you're still in this illuminated period. There's more cosmic divine energy coming in, but it's going down, and it's a nighttime. One important thing is there's 4 ages contained within each phase. So what I'm going to try to do here is relate this Western, or this you could say is a terrestrial time clock. It's relating to the Earth's precession. And the Vedas talk about yugas, which are on a much vaster time scale. So I'm going to try to relate those two time scales. So this is the same terrestrial clock. That was a 12,000 year period here. So these are the different yugas. The golden age, you could say, which is called Satya Yuga in the Vedas, or it's sometimes called Krita Yuga, lasts for 4,800 years. And then there's a transition period. This is the 384 period transition period, where this period has the attributes of the golden age are kind of fading here, and the attributes of the new age, Treta Yuga, have not kicked in yet. So it's sort of a transition in consciousness here. And then Treta lasts for 3,600 years and goes on to Dwapara Yuga, another transition period, and then finally to Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the yuga that we're in right now. So that totals 12,000 years. If you add the transition periods, there's 960 years for all the transition periods between those ages. So you get 12,960 years for a full phase cycle. So that's what I'm referring to here, is one phase. This is one phase right there. So what's especially significant about these transition periods, because we're in this transition period right here now. We're coming out of Kali Yuga, moving into this period again, so another phase. The transition period, it says in Robert Cox's book, is during these periods, the qualified laws of nature are temporarily suspended, and the unqualified transcendental reality shines through the fabric of nature. So these are the times when awakened seekers, like people in this room, can take advantage of this period, because you can make the greatest spiritual progress during these transition periods. It's especially like a lot of the blocks or the forces of consciousness that would normally make it difficult to make progress spiritually are suspended now. So you can make rapid spiritual progress if you're an awakened spiritual seeker right now. And that's needed to herald in the new age of light. So to move into this age, there needs to be a little bit of a jump start, and that's what this transition period is doing. You're seeing both effects though. You're seeing both negativity increase at the same time the positive is increasing. So I'll explain more about that. So these are what we've been describing anyway. We are here, and we're moving into a new golden age. So like it says in this caption, the wave-like emanations of celestial fire that radiate from the central sun may be conceived as a cosmic breath of the Creator. So you can think of this as God's breath in a way. But this is also described in terms of the Vedic system. I'll explain that. But the main point is that immediately before a golden period is a minimum point. This is in terms of spiritual energy. So the energy available in the Earth's atmosphere now for spiritual growth is at a kind of a minimum right now. It's not really, but in terms of the consciousness, it's at a minimum. And then it rockets skyward. And this occurs over the last 40 years of this transition period. It's like an exponential increase. So what we're experiencing right now is this exponential increase in spiritual energy on the planet. And with the energy increasing so rapidly, it will not be very difficult for some people that are more open to start communicating with other planes in the creation, like the God plane. So if you, in your meditation, start getting new resonances that are guiding you in new ways, maybe you're making contact with these higher planes that are giving you new directions in your spiritual growth. So here's between the trying to connect these two systems of time, this terrestrial system, what they talk about in the Vedas of India, the yugas. So the 4 ages described refer to the terrestrial ages, but the yugas are a much vaster time scale that apply to the whole galaxy as a whole. And the principle of divine correspondence is invoked here, as above, so below. So the yugas being on a higher level, they also correspond with what's happening at a lower level. The time scales involved here. If you look at the time amounts here, this is about 4 times bigger than this is. So if we ratio these times, this is 4, 3, 2, and 1. That's how the ratios of time correspond. And these have the names Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali as well for the galactic yugas. So the 4 galactic yugas, not counting the transition times, are 4,320,000 years. And one cycle of yugas equals 1 kalpa. That's just the terminology that's used. So 1 kalpa is 4,320 years. And there's the Vedic seers, they could see how time plays out on different planes of consciousness. In the God plane, 1 day in the God plane is equal to 360 days in the Earth plane, or human plane, you could say. So that's the way to connect these two time scales. So if we look at one phase, as we just said, is 12,000 years, not counting transition periods. So 1 galactic day times 1 phase is 1 kalpa. So that's how you can connect these two scales of time. So when we talk about the yugas, those are Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali again, but they're on much greater time scales. And in the Satya Yuga, there's 3 fundamental energies of consciousness that we call the gunas. And one of them, Sattva guna, is spiritual energy. And that's what you feel when you're having blissful, you're feeling harmony and joy and bliss and clarity. Your mind is silent. You're having single-pointed consciousness more. You're able to focus on things easily. You kind of get absorbed in what you're doing, like you might be writing a paper or something, and you feel like only 5 minutes has gone by, but it's been an hour. That's Sattva guna acting. You get immersed in the moment. You don't notice time passing very much. Your thoughts are quiet. You don't have many thoughts. That's Sattva. And then Rajas energy is more action drive energy. It's the creative energy when it's combined with Sattva. But when Rajas is combined with Tamas, it leads to delusionary activity. So it's more negative behavior. So that's, and then when the Tamas energy is basically like a cloud or a veil. If you think of the sun, Tamas is like a cloud that blocks the sun. So it's basically inertia. Like when you feel lazy and you don't want to get up and do stuff, that's the Tamas energy effect. When you get drowsy and sleepy, it invokes sleep, Tamas energy. So it's not all bad. Tamas has its role because you need to sleep. But generally it's inertia. So on an intellectual level, it's rationalization and things that keep you from moving forward. So anyway, that's the gunas. And then in Kali Yuga, we're having 25% Sattva energy and 75% Rajas and Tamas energy. So that's where we are right now. That's the state of the world right now, is 75% Rajas and Tamas. So, let's see, transition. Yeah, so that gives you a framework with that. And then within Kali Yuga, on average, it's 25% sattva energy, but it changes a little bit depending on the terrestrial time scale. So that terrestrial clock we talked about earlier with the precession on the axis, that's going on, that creates sub-cycles within the main Kali Yuga. So we're in a sub-cycle right now of Kali, so it's double Kali. We're having a terrestrial Kali Yuga and a galactic Kali Yuga right now. And we're coming out of that and going into the Satya Yuga on a terrestrial time scale. So what that means is during the transition period, there is more Rajas and Tamas. And as we